Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Your life does not change because of luck. It does not change because of chance. And it certainly does not change because you wish it would. Your life changes the moment you do. Now, people are always searching for that one secret, that one breakthrough, that one big opportunity that will magically transform everything. But what if I told you the answer is not something big, it's something small. So small, most people ignore it. And yet, it has the power to completely reshape your future. That habit is this: taking full responsibility for your life. Not tomorrow, not next week, but starting today. You see, the day you begin to say, this is on me, is the day everything begins to shift. When things go wrong, and they will, most people look for someone to blame. They blame the economy. They blame their boss. They blame their past. They blame their circumstances. But the successful person, they ask a different question. They ask, what can I do to make this better? And that question is where power lives. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a gift. Because the moment you accept responsibility, you also accept control. And control means you can change things. Think about it. If it's always someone else's fault, then you are stuck. But if it's your responsibility, then you are free. Free to improve. Free to grow. Free to become something more. Now here's where it gets interesting. This habit works overnight, not because your results change instantly, but because you change instantly. Your mindset shifts. Your decisions sharpen. Your actions become intentional. And once that happens, your results have no choice but to follow. From this moment forward, you stop saying, I don't have time. And you start saying, I didn't make it a priority. You stop saying, I can't. And you start saying, how can I? You stop waiting for life to get easier, and you start getting stronger. Let me give you a simple truth. Your future is not decided by your past. It is decided by your daily choices. And responsibility is what puts you back in the driver's seat. Every day you get a choice. You can drift or you can direct your life. You can react or you can create. You can blame or you can build. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a new opportunity. You don't need more resources. You don't need perfect conditions. All you need is a decision. A decision that says, I am responsible for where I am, and I am responsible for where I'm going. Because once you own your life, you can design your life. You can improve your habits. You can increase your discipline. You can expand your vision. And over time, those small daily decisions turn into massive results. So if you're waiting for your life to change, stop waiting. Start owning. Because the habit that will change your life overnight is not something you find, it's something you decide. Make the decision today. Take responsibility. And watch what happens next. Because when you change, everything begins to change. Everything begins with awareness, whether a person realizes it or not. The life you are living right now is not an accident. It is a reflection of your repeated thoughts, your daily habits, and the decisions you've made both consciously and unconsciously. Most people move through life on autopilot. They wake up, follow routines, react to situations, and go to sleep without ever asking themselves a simple but powerful question. Why am I living this way? That question alone has the power to wake you up. Awareness is the moment you step outside of your routine and begin to observe your own life as if you were watching it from a distance. You start noticing patterns. You notice how you spend your time, how you respond to challenges, how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. And more importantly, you begin to see the connection between your actions and your results. This is where transformation truly begins, not with action, but with understanding. Because if you don't understand what's holding you back, you will keep repeating it. If you are not aware of the habits that are draining your energy, you will continue feeding them. If you are not aware of the excuses you tell yourself, you will continue believing them as truth. Awareness shines a light on what was once invisible. And sometimes that light is uncomfortable. You may realize that you've been wasting more time than you thought. You may see that fear has been guiding your decisions more than courage. You may recognize that you've been waiting for the right moment instead of creating it. These realizations are not meant to discourage you, they are meant to empower you. Because once you can see it, you can change it. Think about it this way: you cannot correct a path if you don't know you're off course. Awareness gives you that clarity. It shows you where you are so you can decide where you want to go. But here's the important part: awareness, not about blaming yourself. It's not about looking back with regret or criticizing every mistake you've made. That kind of thinking keeps you stuck. True awareness is neutral. It simply observes and understands. It says, this is where I am, these are my habits, these are my results. No drama, no excuses, just truth. And truth, when accepted, becomes a powerful tool. Once you develop awareness, your decisions begin to change. You start catching yourself in moments where you would normally act without thinking. You pause before wasting time. You question negative thoughts instead of accepting them. You begin to choose your actions instead of being controlled by them. That's when you move from living by default to living by design. You start to realize that every small action matters. The way you spend your morning matters. The conversations you engage in matter. The effort you give to your work matters. Awareness turns ordinary moments into opportunities for improvement. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your discipline. It builds a sense of control over your life that you may have never felt before. And the more aware you become, the more intentional you become. You stop drifting through days and start directing them. You stop reacting to life and start shaping it. This is the true power of awareness that doesn't just show you your current reality, it gives you the ability to rewrite it. So take a moment and look at your life honestly. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. Pay attention to what you do each day. Listen to the thoughts you repeat in your mind. Notice the habits that are helping you and the ones that are holding you back. Because the moment you become aware is the moment you take the first real step toward change. And that step, no matter how small it seems, can lead you to a completely different life. There comes a turning point in every person's life when they realize that progress is no longer about what has happened to them, but about what they choose to do next. That turning point begins the moment you accept responsibility. Not partially, not when it's convenient, but fully. Responsibility is often misunderstood. Many people hear that word and immediately think of blame, pressure, or burden. They associate it with guilt, something heavy that weighs them down. But in reality, responsibility is the exact opposite. It is the moment you take your power back. Because as long as you believe your life is controlled by external forces, by other people, by circumstances, by luck, you remain stuck. You wait, you hope, you depend on things outside your control to improve. And that waiting can last for years. But when you shift your mindset and say, this is my life, and I am responsible for improving it, something changes instantly. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer hoping. You are now in control. That's where growth begins. Taking responsibility does not mean everything is your fault. Life is unpredictable. Challenges will come. People will disappoint you. Situations will arise that you did not choose. Responsibility is not about accepting blame for those events. It is about accepting ownership of your response to them. That distinction changes everything. You may not control what happens, but you always control what you do about it. You control your attitude, your effort, your discipline, and your decisions. And those are the very things that shape your future. When you begin to live this way, excuses start to lose their power. The phrase "I can't" becomes "how can I?" The habit of blaming others is replaced with a focus on self-improvement. Instead of asking why something is unfair, you begin asking what you can learn from it. And those questions lead to growth. Responsibility also builds a strong sense of accountability. You start setting higher standards for yourself, not because someone else expects it, but because you expect it from yourself. You become more disciplined with your time. You become more intentional with your actions. You begin to follow through on what you say you will do. This is where confidence is built not from motivation, but from keeping promises to yourself. Each time you take responsibility for your actions, you strengthen your character. Each time you choose action over excuses, you reinforce a mindset of growth. Over time, these small moments of ownership create a powerful identity, someone who does not avoid challenges, but faces them. And here is something important to understand. Responsibility gives you freedom. It may sound unusual, but it's true. When you take responsibility, you are no longer controlled by your past. You are no longer defined by your circumstances. You are free to improve, to adapt, and to create new outcomes. Without responsibility, there is no real progress. Because progress requires change, and change requires ownership. You cannot improve a situation you refuse to own. But the moment you say, this is mine to fix, mine to improve, mine to grow from, you unlock the ability to move forward. You stop being a victim of your situation and become the creator of your future. This does not happen all at once. It is built daily through small decisions. Choosing to stay disciplined when it's difficult. Choosing to learn when it's easier to ignore. Choosing to act when it's more comfortable to delay. These choices may seem small, but they carry great weight, because each one reinforces the habit of responsibility. And over time, that habit transforms your life. You begin to trust yourself more. You rely less on external validation and more on your own standards. You become someone who takes action, solves problems, and keeps moving forward regardless of circumstances. That is what growth looks like. It is not loud. It is not instant, but it is powerful. And it all begins with a simple decision, a decision to stop pointing outward and start looking inward. A decision to stop asking who is responsible and start answering, I am. Because the moment you take responsibility, you don't just change your actions, you change your direction. And when your direction changes, your entire life begins to follow. There is a common misunderstanding that success comes from one big moment, one breakthrough, one opportunity, one decision that changes everything at once. People wait for that moment. They prepare for it, hope for it, and sometimes even depend on it. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Your life is shaped not by one major decision, but by hundreds of small ones made every single day. Every day, you are making choices. Some are obvious, and some are so small you barely notice them. What time do you wake up? How you spend your first hour? Whether you focus or get distracted? Whether you follow through on what you planned or postpone it? These decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, they build patterns. And those patterns become your life. Success is not an event, it is a process. It is the result of consistently making the right choices, even when they feel small, even when they seem unimportant, and especially when no one is watching.
Consider this. A single decision to improve your habits today may not show results tomorrow. You might not feel different.
You might not see immediate progress. But if that decision is repeated again and again, day after day, it begins to compound. What once felt small starts to grow. What once seemed insignificant becomes powerful. This is how real change happens. Small decisions are easy to ignore because they don't demand attention. Skipping one task doesn't feel like failure. Wasting an hour doesn't seem like a big loss. Choosing comfort over discipline feels harmless in the moment. But when these small decisions are repeated consistently, they lead you in a specific direction, either toward growth or away from it. The same principle works in your favor when you begin to make better choices. Waking up a little earlier, staying focused a little longer, putting in a little more effort, learning something new each day. These actions may seem minor, but when they are practiced consistently, they create momentum. And momentum is what turns effort into results. What makes this idea so powerful is that it puts success within reach of anyone. You don't need extraordinary talent. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need a dramatic change. You only need to improve your decisions, one step at a time. This is where discipline becomes important. Discipline is not about doing something big once, it is about doing small things consistently. It is choosing what matters most over what feels easiest. It is showing up even when you don't feel like it. And every time you do that, you strengthen your ability to stay consistent. Consistency builds trust with yourself. When you repeatedly follow through on small commitments, you begin to see yourself differently. You start to believe that you are capable of change. You become someone who does what they say they will do. And that belief fuels even greater action. It's also important to understand that small decisions work both ways. Just as positive choices can build a better future, negative ones can slowly create setbacks. The danger is not in one bad decision, but in the habit of making them repeatedly. That's why awareness and intention are so important. You must begin to treat each decision as something that matters. Not because it will change your life instantly, but because it contributes to the direction your life is heading. Over time, these small choices create a gap. On one side are those who consistently choose growth, discipline, and improvement. On the other side are those who choose comfort, delay, and excuses. At first, the difference between them may seem small, but as days turn into months and months into years, that gap becomes impossible to ignore. Results begin to show. Opportunities begin to appear. Confidence begins to grow. And it all traces back to the same source: daily decisions. So instead of looking for one big change, focus on the next small choice. Ask yourself, what is the best decision I can make right now? Then act on it. And when the next moment comes, do it again. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Because when small decisions are made with intention and repeated over time, they create something powerful. They shape your habits, your mindset, your character, and ultimately your future. And one day, you will look back and realize that your life did change not overnight because of one big moment, but gradually because of many small, disciplined decisions that led you exactly where you chose to go. Change does not always begin on the outside. It does not wait for better conditions, more resources, or the perfect moment. Real change begins internally in the way you think, in the way you interpret your circumstances, and in the meaning you give to your experiences. The moment your mindset shifts, everything else begins to move in a new direction. Most people believe that results come first and mindset follows. They think once things get better, I will feel better. Once I succeed, I will think differently. But in reality, it works the other way around. Your thinking shapes your actions, and your actions shape your results. So if nothing changes in your thinking, nothing meaningful changes in your life. A mindset shift is powerful because it happens instantly. In one moment, you can move from doubt to determination, from confusion to clarity, from hesitation to action. The external world may remain the same, but the way you respond to it changes, and that response is what creates progress. Consider how often people limit themselves, not because they lack ability, but because they believe they do. They tell themselves they are not ready, not capable, or not good enough. These thoughts may feel real, but they are simply patterns that have been repeated so often that they begin to feel like facts. A mindset shift challenges those patterns. It replaces "I can't do this" with "how can I learn this?" It replaces "this is too difficult" with "this is an opportunity to grow." It replaces "I failed" with "I gained experience." This shift does not ignore reality, it reframes it. It allows you to see challenges not as barriers, but as stepping stones. And once you begin to think this way, your behavior naturally follows. You take more initiative. You become more willing to try. You stop avoiding discomfort and start using it as a tool for growth. That is where momentum begins. What makes mindset so important is that it influences every decision you make. Two people can face the same situation and produce completely different outcomes, simply because they think differently. One sees a problem and stops. The other sees the same problem and looks for a solution. One hesitates. The other acts. The difference is not in the situation, it is in the mindset. When you adopt a proactive mindset, you stop waiting for instructions, permission, or perfect timing. You begin to take ownership of your progress. You start asking better questions that lead to solutions instead of excuses. And the quality of your life is often determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What can I do about this?" Instead of focusing on what is missing, you focus on what is possible. Instead of dwelling on setbacks, you look for lessons. This shift may seem simple, but it changes everything. It gives you energy when you would normally feel stuck. It gives you direction when you feel uncertain. It gives you confidence even before results appear. And that confidence is not based on proof, it is based on belief. A belief that you can learn, improve, and adapt no matter what situation you are in. Another important part of mindset is consistency. It is not enough to think positively once or feel motivated for a short period of time. A strong mindset is built through repetition. It is reinforced daily through the thoughts you choose and the actions you take. There will still be difficult days. There will still be moments of doubt. But with the right mindset, those moments do not control you. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. That is what separates temporary motivation from lasting change. When your mindset shifts, your standards rise. You expect more from yourself. You become more focused on growth and comfort. You begin to see effort as necessary, not optional. And as your standards increase, your actions begin to match them. This is how internal change leads to external results. It may not be immediate, but it is inevitable. Because once you think differently, you act differently. And once you act differently, you begin to live differently. So do not wait for your circumstances to improve before you change your thinking. Change your thinking now and let your actions reflect that shift. Choose to focus on solutions. Choose to believe in progress. Choose to move forward even when it feels uncertain. Because the moment your mindset changes, you are no longer the same person you were before. And that change, though invisible at first, has the power to transform everything that follows. In the end, everything comes back to a simple truth. Change is not something that happens to you it is something that begins within you and is built by you step by step. Awareness opens your eyes to where you stand. Responsibility puts you in control of where you go. Small daily decisions create the path you walk on, and your mindset determines how far and how fast you move forward. These are not separate ideas, they are connected. Awareness leads you to take responsibility. Responsibility influences your decisions. Consistent decisions strengthen your mindset. And a strong mindset keeps you growing, even when the journey becomes difficult. There is no need to wait for the perfect moment, because the power to change your life has always been in your hands. It begins the moment you choose to think differently, act intentionally, and hold yourself accountable for the direction you are heading. Your life will not change overnight because of luck or chance, but it can change overnight through a decision to become aware, a decision to take responsibility, a decision to make better choices, and a decision to develop a mindset that refuses to settle. Stay consistent with these principles, and over time, the results will speak for themselves. What once seemed impossible will become achievable. What once felt distant will become your reality. Because when you change the way you think and act, you don't just improve your life, you transform it.